What if I told you Team USA's biggest problem wasn't talent, it was who had the ball in their hands? Because for the first 3 minutes against Italy, the most dominant program in women's basketball looked completely stuck in the mud. You could feel it in the arena. The body language was off, the ball movement looked robotic, and the crowd started murmuring as the scoreboard sat at a painful 5-5. This was supposed to be an offensive powerhouse, yet they were grinding through possessions like a team searching for an identity. The basketball establishment has been pushing this narrative for a while now, that seniority wins games, that the slow half-court style is the safe way to handle international competition, and that rookies like Caitlin Clark should patiently wait behind the veterans. But on this night, that storyline started cracking in real time. The starting unit looked predictable, the pace was crawling, and even a legendary floor general like Chelsea Gray couldn't inject the speed and chaos needed to crack Italy's defense. The game was turning into a slow, muddy battle, until something changed on the sideline. With head coach Carla Lawson away at March Madness, assistant Nate Tibbetts took one look at that stagnant offense and made a bold call. 3 minutes into the first quarter, he ditched the hierarchy, ignored the politics, and pointed to the bench, number 22. And the second Caitlin Clark stepped onto that floor, everything flipped. Team USA had 5 points before she checked in. Over the next 6.5 minutes, they exploded for 23. The entire geometry of the court stretched instantly. Italy's defense, which had been chilling comfortably in the paint, suddenly had to sprint out past the 30-foot line just to survive Clark's range. And once that pressure extended, the entire offense unlocked like a perfectly synced machine. But the real moment that sent shockwaves through the arena? You're about to see it right here. Check this out.
Let's get this going. Let me just... Oh! Misdirection. Backdoor. Take it to the rack. Layup! Folks, look at the score, actually. 5-5. We only scored 5 points in the first 3 minutes of this game. Caitlin Clark...
That play right there. That's the difference between running an offense and reprogramming one. Watch how the entire Italian defense locks in on Caitlin Clark the second she touches the ball. Every defender is expecting the same nightmare scenario, a deep logo 3 or a lethal pick and roll. But Clark doesn't even need the shot. Instead, she manipulates the defense with nothing but eye movement, freezes them for half a second, and suddenly there's a tiny crack along the baseline. One perfectly timed backdoor cut, one laser-sharp pass that completely dodges the rotation, and boom, easy layup at the rim. That's not just passing to an open teammate. That's straight-up chess while the defense is stuck playing checkers. And as electric as that first quarter scoring explosion was, the real drama of this game started when Clark went back to the bench. The coaching staff returned to their normal rotations in the second and third quarters, probably thinking they could manage the pace while their generational spark plug got some rest. But the second she sat down, the offense snapped right back to that slow, clunky rhythm we saw at the beginning. Without Clark stretching the floor with that insane shooting gravity, Italy's defense collapsed back into the paint. Passing lanes vanished, transition buckets disappeared, and suddenly Team USA was grinding through ugly isolation jumpers late in the shot clock. The numbers tell the whole story. During those middle quarters without Clark on the floor, the US only outscored Italy by 7 points. What should have been a comfortable cruise turned into a straight-up dogfight. Every possession felt heavy, every basket looked like hard labor, and for a moment this powerhouse squad looked mortal. Like they were waiting for someone, anyone, to inject life back into the system. And then the fourth quarter finally arrived. The coaching staff stopped holding back and unleashed the lineup the entire basketball world had been begging to see. Kelsey Plum, Paige Buchers, Caitlin Clark, all on the floor at the same time. And what happened next? You've got to see this.
But oh, go behind the back here. Oh, in between the legs. Oh, let me stop, hold on. Turn around. Fade away. In your face.
Did you catch that? Because if anyone out there still doubts Caitlin Clark's ability to cook elite international defenders one-on-one, run that clip back a few times. Seriously. The critics love to say she's just a long-range shooter, that she relies on the three and doesn't have that classic point guard bag. But that possession completely shatters that myth. She's isolated on the perimeter, the defender is squared up and ready, and Clark just goes to work. One quick behind-the-back move freezes the defender's momentum, then she flows straight into a between-the-legs dribble to set her rhythm. Suddenly she stops on a dime, spins into a turnaround fadeaway, and releases it right in the defender's face. The footwork. Surgical. The mechanics. Flawless. The release. Lightning quick. That's the kind of shot that breaks a defender's spirit, because even when you play perfect textbook defense, it still doesn't matter. Clark isn't just a shooter, she's a complete offensive weapon operating at full power. But the fourth quarter wasn't just about Clark hitting tough shots. The real story was how the entire team's chemistry transformed once that lineup hit the floor. Because for months, the internet has been pushing this drama-filled narrative about tension in the locker room, especially between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. People online have dissected clips frame by frame, trying to prove there's jealousy, conflict, even some kind of sabotage happening behind the scenes. But the footage from this stretch of the game? It absolutely destroys that storyline. What you're about to see next flips that entire narrative on its head. Take a look at this.
She said some nice, yup, free up some space. Step back, signature Caitlin Clark 3 with the step back going left. Angel Reese actually excited about it, if you can believe it. If you can believe it, look at all that space. Pull up, bang, 2 in the quarter. Now Angel Reese bricks.
Now that clip right there, that completely flips the internet narrative on its head. Because the same player people online claim can't stand playing with Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese steps in and delivers a brutally physical, perfectly timed screen. She absolutely wipes out the perimeter defender, does all the gritty dirty work, and creates a massive pocket of space. And Clark. She reads it instantly. One signature step back drifting to the left, and she launches a straight-up missile from logo range. Splash. The net barely even moves before Angel Reese is already celebrating the shot. That's not tension. That's chemistry. That's two elite competitors combining their strengths to create something defenses simply can't solve. Reese brings the muscle and enforcement in the action, Clark delivers the lethal long-range execution, and when those two sync up in a pick-and-roll or dribble handoff, there's honestly no defensive scheme on the planet that can shut it down consistently. But the real nightmare for opponents didn't just come in the half-court. The fourth quarter also showed a masterclass in transition offense. Because the moment Team USA secured a defensive rebound, the clock started ticking. In international basketball, you've got maybe 2.5 seconds before defense can recover and get set. That tiny window disappears instantly if your point guard casually walks the ball up the floor. But when the player bringing it up has a default setting of full sprint, that fast break suddenly turns into pure chaos for the defense. And what happened on the next transition possession? That's where things got completely out of control. Watch this.
Where is she? There she is. Gives Caitlin Clark the ball. Caitlin Clark pushing it. Paige already up the... Oh, look at the threading the needle. Sweet! Oh, in between two defenders. Pass was so good that defender almost fell over. Look at that. Pass so good. Stop.
That transition you just watched. That's the moment the game completely broke open. Watch the details. Kiki Van Lith fights through traffic and secures the defensive rebound. Huge play, but the real intelligence comes in the next second. She doesn't dribble, she doesn't hesitate, she instantly fires the outlet to her point guard. And the second that ball hits Caitlin Clark's hands, the entire Italian defense is already in trouble. Paige Buchers reads the moment instantly and takes off down the floor in a full sprint. Now here's where the magic happens. Clark is pushing the pace at warp speed while scanning the floor like a quarterback reading a blitz. Two Italian defenders are perfectly positioned in the passing lane. The window is basically sealed. For 99% of point guards, that play dies right there. You slow it down, reset the offense. But Clark doesn't see closed windows. She sees opportunities. She rifles a laser through the tiniest gap imaginable, and the retreating defender literally stumbles trying to react. The pass lands perfectly in stride, Buchers finishes at the rim, and just like that the arena erupts. When Paige Buchers and Caitlin Clark share the floor, the offense doesn't look difficult, it looks effortless. The spacing, the vision, the speed of decision-making, it turns basketball into a clinic. And that contrast is exactly what defined this entire game. The slow, grinding offense we saw in the second and third quarters suddenly transformed into a high-octane scoring machine whenever Clark was running the show. The numbers back it up in a way that's almost ridiculous. Clark finished with 12 points and 5 assists, but the advanced metrics tell the real story. She posted a staggering 102% true shooting percentage, which in basketball analytics basically means offensive perfection. Every shot, every touch, every possession produced maximum value. And then there's the stat that coaches hate ignoring, the plus-minus. Clark finished the game plus 25, the highest on the entire team. In a game that turned into a dogfight during the middle quarters, that number is devastating evidence. When she was on the floor, Team USA outscored Italy by 25 points. 25. That's not influence, that's domination. Think about the pattern. When Clark entered early in the first quarter, Team USA exploded for 28 points. When she closed the game in the fourth, they poured in another 24. But when she sat, the offense looked confused, stagnant, almost like a completely different team wearing the same jersey. And that's why this game might be the turning point for Team USA's lineup philosophy. At some point, the politics have to end. Seniority can't matter more than production. When a player can take a slow, predictable offense and instantly transform it into a fast, lethal scoring machine, with a 102% true shooting night and a plus 25 impact, you don't keep that player waiting on the bench. Nate Tibbetts saw the truth just 3 minutes into this game when he hit the panic button and called number 22. But here's the real question. Why should it take an offensive emergency to play your best weapon? Because the competition on the global stage is only getting tougher, faster, and more physical. And if Team USA wants to stay dominant, the keys to the offense might already be obvious. The player who rescued them from a 5-point drought might be the same player who should be starting the entire engine. If you love breaking down the real strategy behind women's basketball, the film, the analytics, the X's and O's, make sure you hit subscribe and drop a like on this video. And now I want to hear from you. Is it officially time for Team USA to hand Caitlin Clark the starting point guard job? Or should the veterans still run the show? Let me know in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next breakdown. Fire basketball and hoop.